Hey, seventh graders, and welcome to 3.2 today. We've got multiplying decimals in today's lesson. Hopefully, this is a little bit of a review, and hopefully, you've seen this before, but if not, that's okay. I'll teach you for sure how to do it today. Again, our lesson objective is to be able to multiply decimals. Okay, and the one of the biggest tricks that's different from last section, and last section when we were adding decimals, we lined up our decimal place. Here we line up our digits. So kind of like whole numbers. You don't worry about the decimal when you're multiplying decimals till the end. Okay? So for example, in letter A, when I have 7 times 0.1, I'm just going to multiply those like I would whole numbers. So I'd take 7 times 1, which is 7, and I'd take 0 times 7, which is 0. Okay? And I'm not going to worry about my decimal until the end now. And what I need to do is I need to count how many decimal places are in my factors. So on my first factor, my first number that I'm multiplying, I don't have any decimal places. That you see that here. There are 0 decimal places. We don't even have a decimal. Okay. In my second factor, I have one number that's after the decimal. So that's here you see that there is one decimal place. There's one number after the decimal. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to add those together. Well, 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. So that means in my answer, I should have one number after the decimal. In other words, I'll count one spot from the furthest to the right. And there is where my decimal goes. Okay. So my answer would be 0.7 or 7/10. Okay. Let's try that with letter B as well. Let me scroll down a little bit here, and then letter C as well. Letter B says -3 times 0.03. So now I need to know how to, I have to still remember what I learned last chapter with my negatives and positives. Okay. You'll see here they just lined them up like they would with whole numbers. They don't worry about the decimal at all. And what I like to do is I actually like to put my number that has more digits on top. So I like to put 0.03 on top, and I like to multiply that by 3, like this. You'll see they have it reversed. They have their 3 on top. But it doesn't really matter. You'll get the same answer regardless. I just like to do it like this. It's easiest for me. I can look at my signs right away if I want, and a negative times a positive. When you're multiplying or dividing, different signs is going to give you a negative answer. Okay. Now let's multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 0 is 0. And 3 times 0 is 0. Okay. And then my final step would be look at how many decimal places I have. How many numbers are after my decimal? Well, in this number, -3, I don't have any decimal places. And my second factor, my second number that I'm multiplying, I have 2 numbers after the decimal. So 0 plus 2 would be 2. So I need 2 decimal places in my final answer. So if I come here, I need to move it 1, 2 spots for a total of 0.09, and it's negative 0.09. Okay, and use 0 as a placeholder. Okay. Lastly, then, for letter C, let's try this one again. And it'll be very similar. It says 2.45 times 35. Well, in my first factor, I have 2 numbers after the decimal. And my second number, I don't have any. Okay, so 2 plus 0 equals, I should have 2 decimal places in the end. Okay, multiplying these first, just like whole numbers, I'm actually going to show my work over here. 2.45 times 35. 5 times 5 is 25, carry my 2. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22, so I'll put down my 2 and carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Okay, go to the next digit, so I need a placeholder. 3 times 5 is 15, put down my 5, carry my 1. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13, carry my 1 again. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Okay, add these. I should get 5, and 2 plus 5 would be 7, and 3 plus 2 would be 5, and 1 plus 7 would be 8. Okay, so I have 8, 5, 7, 5. Now, like it said over here, I need 2 numbers after the decimal. So start on the right, move it 1, 2 spots, and put my decimal. So I'd come up with 85.75. Okay, and that's kind of the trick on how you do it. So don't worry about the decimal until the end, and you move it how many decimals were in the factors. Okay, let's move on to the next example to see what this one's like. Example 2 says 2.4 times 1.8. Change colors again here. And you'll notice in the first factor, I have one number after the decimal, and I also have that in the second factor, one decimal after, one number after the decimal, okay? Well, they did their multiplying for us, so 8 times 4 is 32, carry my 3, 16 plus 3 would be, they must have multiplied a different way. But let's see what they come up with when they add here. I'm just going to do it on the side to make sure they did it right. 2.4 times 1.8, 32, carry my 3. 8 times 2 is 16, 17, 18, 19. Yep, placeholder. 4 and 2. Okay, yep, they did it right. Just want to double check there. 2 plus 0 is 2. 9 plus 4 would give me 13, carry my 1. 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. Okay. Then I would, in the end, since I had one decimal in this factor and one decimal in this factor, 1 plus 1 is 2. So I need to move it 2 spots in my final answer for a total of 4.32. And we're going to estimate to check and see, is that reasonable? Well, if I rounded this, it'd be 2. The 4 tells me to round down. This number, 1.8, I would round that up to 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Yeah, we got close to that. So 4.32 is a reasonable answer. Okay. Flip over to the back to check out letter B. It says multiply and estimate to check whether it's reasonable. Okay, same thing here. I have negative 3.84 times 0.9. Different signs. So a negative times a positive. Different signs when you're multiplying or dividing gives you a negative answer. I'm going to do that right away. And then I'm going to multiply. So 3.84 times 0.9. Well, in this factor, I have 2 numbers after the decimal. And in this factor, I have 1 number after the decimal. So 2 plus 1 would give me 3 places that I'm going to have to move my decimal in the end. All right, 4 times 9 is 36. Carry my 3. 9 times 8 is 72. 73, 74, 75. Carry my 7. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus Okay, sorry I got cut off by my time limit there. I promise one of these days I'm not going to be such a cheapo and I'm going to pay for the premium version where it's longer than 10-minute recordings. But let's quickly do this again. So I have 3.84 times 0.9, lining up my digits. 36, carry my 3. 72, 73, 74, 75, carry my 7. 27 plus 7, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Placeholder. And from there, I'm going to come up with a bunch of zeros, 0, 0, 0, and add 6, 5, 4, 3. That's kind of cool. And then in the end, remember I said a negative times a positive is a negative, and I had two numbers after the decimal here and 1 here for a total of 3 decimal places I need to move for my final. So 1, 2, 3 spots. So negative 3.456 would be my answer. And does that make sense? Well, this is close to negative 4, and this is close to 1. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. So yes, negative 3.456 is a reasonable answer. Okay, let's move on to the last example then. And we have a word problem here. And it says to find your weight on another planet, multiply the relative gravitational pull of the planet and your weight. Okay, kind of interesting. The relative gravitational pull on Mars is 0.38. What would a person who weighs 85 pounds on Earth weigh on Mars? Okay, well, 85 pounds has 0 decimal places. 0.38 has 2 decimal places. So 2 plus 0 is 2 decimal places that I'll have in the end. Okay, when I multiply here, they've come up with my answers. I just need to add them. So I get 0. 8 and 5 is 13, carry my 1. 12, carry my 1, and 3. So I get 3, 2, 3, 0. And then move my decimal 2 spots in the end. So 1, 2. So the person would weigh 32.30 pounds on Mars. Wow, that is kind of cool. If you weighed 85 pounds on Earth, 32 pounds on Mars, well, I bet you'd be able to jump pretty high. That'd be cool to experience. If we were to estimate that, 85 times, if we rounded this to a half of 85 would give us 42.5. So yeah, 32.30 is a reasonable answer. Okay, go ahead and pause the video, try the 2 check-it your out problems, and see if you're coming up with the right answers. All right, here is what I get for number 1. In the end, hopefully you have 2 decimal spots. This one doesn't have any. This one has 2. If I were to round 4, if I round this to 4, 4 times 15 would give me 60. So hopefully you got an answer close to 60. If you multiply that out, come up with 54.75. Okay, let me know if you didn't get that, or rework your problem so you do get that. And then the last one, if I round this to 3 and round this to 2, 3 times 2 is 6. So hopefully your answer is close to 6. And I have 1, 2. Should have 2 numbers behind the decimal in your final answer. Should get 5.12 or 5 12/100ths for your final answer there. All right. Again, let me know if you need help on either of the check it your own problems. That's how to multiply decimals in a nutshell. You just multiply like you would with whole numbers, and then in the end, count the number of decimals in your factors or in your numbers that you're multiplying, and that's the total that should be in your answer. All right. Let me know if you have more questions, and that's all I have for today. I will see you next time, 7th grade.